I once heard from a runner who took a pre-workout liquid rage energy drink thinking it would supercharge him just before a big half marathon. The runner said he had an insane amount of energy for the first 2 miles, then he proceeded to have heart palpitations, a massive energy crash, but he did make good friends with every aid station volunteer as he slowly limped his way through the next 11 miles. In reality, there are very few, if any, foods that will turn us into an endurance version of the Hulk. But in my running career, I found a very few select foods that I found gave me extra tools that I could use on race day depending on what the race threw at me. They ensured that when a race I was in got tough and threw punches at me, I could punch back with one of these tools that I'm going to share with you today. What's up, motivators? My name is Taryn. When ordinary people want to accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports, they choose our totally free Motive training plans. You're ready to take on that next big endurance challenge? Let's do it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is a cramp fixer. Almost every runner will at some point in their running career experience cramps. Maybe it's a side stitch that you can run through, or maybe it's a full-on muscle cramp that causes you to walk. I had side stitches so bad that I would bruise in the days after the race. Now, most people think that what you need is electrolytes or hydration to fix cramps, but that's not entirely right. Cramps are actually our brain's way of shutting us down when what we're doing to our body is so intense that the brain thinks we might injure ourselves. So it's sometimes a hydration issue if we're severely dehydrated and our brain thinks we need to stop, but more than anything, it's a neurological issue where our brain is sending a cramp signal to the body just to protect ourselves. The way to override this is to eat something that's so intense that the brain decides to focus on what you ate or drank instead of focusing on the pain of the race. So I used to carry something really tart like pickle juice or a salt tube that I'd take in little bits of as soon as the first sign of cramps would come on. And this would instantly make the cramps go away. The fact that the cramps instantly go away before these cramp fixers have even been absorbed by our body is proof that it's a brain thing and not a nutritional need thing. The second thing I used to really like was a hydrator, which I started taking before really hot races and training days, but eventually I started taking it before big or intense training days where I knew my body temperature would be really high. A hydrator is a drink with over 1,000 milligrams of sodium that you take with breakfast to make sure that all your electrolyte levels are topped up for the entire duration of the workout or race, no matter how much you sweat. We started recommending that all athletes try this in our highly rated Triathlon Nutrition Foundation's book, and tons of athletes have found that workouts and races just all of a sudden felt a little easier. Before you do this on race day, try it for yourself in training, and if you don't have any bad reactions, you can try it with breakfast the morning of every race that you do, or just before really hot weather races and intense training sessions. Sticking with what to eat the morning before a race, we always want to have a small carb-based breakfast 4 hours before a race to make sure that our blood glucose and muscle glycogen levels are topped up with easy access to energy during the race. But there's a fine line between giving our bodies enough blood glucose for a race and giving ourselves a sugar crash. I've measured this with a continuous blood glucose monitor, and the wrong carbs can actually cause a lack of energy when our blood glucose levels go down too much. The meal I really like to eat before a race to prevent this was oatmeal with UCAN energy and protein powder. Oatmeal is a very complex carbohydrate, so it provides really long-lasting energy. UCAN is a powder called superstarch that is the longest-lasting carbohydrate energy source on the planet, and using the protein version of UCAN will give you some amino acids to help reduce muscle damage, so it's less likely that you will have muscle breakdown during the race. Next, let's go back to what happens during the race. No matter how well you train or dial in your nutrition, your stomach might start disagreeing with you during the race because about 80% of the blood flow that normally goes to our stomachs gets diverted to the rest of our body when we're exercising at a high level. So our stomachs just don't function normally. If this starts happening during a race, we need a way to snap our stomachs back into check. And the way we do this isn't fancy. All you need is water. All endurance athletes should take their calories from one source and their electrolyte fluids from another source. This way you can change one without affecting another. So if your stomach starts disagreeing with you during a race, you can keep consuming calories, but switch your fluid intake to water. What happens when you do this is you change the osmolality in your stomach, so everything it's working to process gets watered down and easier to digest. Do this for around 15 to 30 minutes and your stomach should settle down nicely, at which point you can go back to your electrolyte fluid. Speaking of taking in calories during a race, the next trick involves what you consume during a running race, because calories aren't just calories when running. You need specific calories. For starters, when running and consuming calories, we should always try to gravitate towards fluid-based calories as opposed to solids. So things like chews and bars should be reserved for cyclists and swimmers, while runners should stick to drinks and gels because our stomachs are so impaired when running that we need something that's extremely easy to absorb. The next thing we want is a very easy to digest form of carbohydrates. For most people, this means maltodextrin. Maltodextrin has been proven to be the easiest to digest for the largest number of people while exercising. The downside to maltodextrin is that it takes more fluids for our body to absorb, which is why we want to have our fluids and our calories separated, as I mentioned before. Before we get into the last running race day superfood, we need to talk about how much you should actually consume during your race. If you eat too little during a race, you won't have the energy you need to perform your best, and if you eat too much, you will get to learn how well the race supplied athletes with porta potties on course. Most nutrition products just have generic guidelines for how much of their product people should consume, but these are general because they aren't personalized to your body weight or pace. So we created a calculator that you can use for free, the link is in the description below, that will calculate exactly how much you should be taking based on your weight and pace. Take the number that this calculator gives you and divide up those calories between your carb intake immediately before the race and then 18 to 30 minute intervals during the race. Finally, what should you do toward the end of a race when you're fading? Wouldn't it be nice to get that Hulk-like rage to get you through to the finish line? This is where we bring on the last superfood, which is full sugar, flat Coca-Cola. Endurance athletes around the world, myself included, have been using Coke as a performance enhancer during races for decades. So much so that it's even on most race course aid stations. Coke is the perfect thing to give us a boost at the end of a race because it is super concentrated sugar with caffeine for a little burst of energy and some pain reduction, and it tastes really sharp, so it resets the brain for a while too. Start taking Coke if you start fading towards the end of a race. But the thing about it is that it's like the carb source I talked about earlier, where you'll get a little burst of energy and then an energy crash after. So once you hop on the Coke train, you've got to ride it out until the end of the race, drinking it every 15 minutes or so. All of these tips are nutritional tools that you can use to enhance your performance on race day, because they battle head on all of the specific times during a race that our performance might slip. Use these tools and you will win that battle. Of course, what you do on race day won't matter if you don't have the right training, so if you want a free personalized training plan for any running race that you want to do, check out Motive, which uses all of the methods we talk about on this channel to help ordinary people accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports. Finally, if you want $30 every 3 months to go towards your sports nutrition purchases, click the link in the description below to go to the feed, which is like Amazon for sports nutrition. Sign up at that link and they will give you $30 in store credit every 3 months for life. Links to everything we talked about are in the description below. Later, motivators.